Well, everyone, welcome in. Thank you for being here. First of all, my name is Brandon Gomes. I am the CEO of Siesta G. It's a hemp brand based in Tampa, Florida. And honestly, people in this room, this association you're about to hear about, my business probably wouldn't be in business if it weren't for them. So I would like, at this time, to introduce the president of the American Healthy Alternatives Association. His name is J.D. McCormick, a good friend of mine. And he's also the president of the Florida Healthy Alternatives Association.
Thank you, Brandon.
Of course. If you could just briefly kind of explain what the American Healthy Alternatives Association is and just what you guys do.
Sure. So the American Healthy Alternatives Association, it is what is known as a business trade organization or an advocacy organization designed to advocate for the businesses that exist in the hemp space. We named it the Healthy Alternatives Association because my father sadly passed away from alcoholism and opioid addiction. In 2002, when I was 11 years old, my father had a slip and fall accident at a family vacation. He went to a doctor in Florida and they prescribed him Oxycontin. Oxycontin was not meant to have any physical, addictive properties. It wasn't supposed to be harmful. It was this new wonder drug. A decade later, he was dead from liver necrosis and a massive heart attack. So I turned to hemp and cannabis products in my own personal life for pain, anxiety, normal daily life. And I've met so many thousands of people in this industry that are here for the very same reason. They own businesses in this space because they believe in it. The one thing I noticed in the hemp space in 2018, when Donald Trump signed the Farm Bill, it was the first time the US federal government had given cannabis to the free market, right? Because prior to that, in 1998, California passed their Compassionate Use Act, legalizing cannabis for a small minority of companies. Those companies then recognized it was a state-issued monopoly. The state was giving them the ability to conduct business with no outside competition. When the 2018 Farm Bill passed, CBD became prevalent in the marketplace, and then in 2020, 2021, Delta 8. That's when the light bulb went off, and I say, oh my God, this is free market cannabis. This is our last chance to save this, because in 2021, a dozen states attempted to ban all of these products. If they had been successful in 2021 and in 2022, what we have today would not exist. The veto from Governor DeSantis would not have been necessary because there would be nothing to save. It's very important that we, as an industry, stand up and fight for our rights, because no one else is going to do it for you. No one's going to go to the Capitol on your behalf. You have to participate as the small business owners, because I promise you, those giant corporations, they've got lobbyists, they've got attorneys. They themselves, as the executives, are going and meeting with senators and representatives in the governor's office, and they're lying about our industry because it benefits them to lie about us. It benefits their bottom line and their billions of dollars in corporate regulatory capture if they destroy us. That's why we exist. That's why this association is so important, and that's why we all have to fight together. Thank you.
Thank you, JD.
Yeah, of course.
I think first, what people want to talk about being with the association is the money. Where's the money going? They want to hear about what is the money spent on. And if I can talk to you, Yasser, the treasurer here, I guess the question a lot of people want to know is, where do majority of the donations go to?
If you look at the past, call it 10 months, we've raised roughly 1.2 million in donations, right? And that's the very first bar that you're seeing on the far left. Then you see all these buckets in red that have a negative number under them. That's the spend in each one of those buckets. So in the very first bucket, PR and advertising, you have to have some sort of PR and advertising when you're fighting against cases or you're trying to lobby, so on and so forth. Then you have legal fees. You have to hire attorneys. Then you have the biggest bucket of them all, lobbying, right? Necessary. You have to have it. Can't do this without it. Then we have website, merchant, bank fees. Got to process the transactions. The bank's going to get paid. They're not giving you anything for free. Then we go to travel. People have to travel to events like this. People have to go and bring lobbyists to specific meetings. Lobbyists aren't going to travel for free, so we have to make sure we account for that as well. Then we see remaining funds. It's a beautiful bucket. It's negative. We owe money. We're in debt. If you look at industries in the United States, almost every single industry has a pretty extensive lobbying budget. You can't be relevant and make sure you're supporting what you need to support as an industry without having any lobbying. Right now, we're bringing in roughly $117,000 a month in donations. People probably think that's great. It's obviously not enough, right? When you have multiple states that you have to fight for, you're spending way more than what you're getting in. We're spending on average $134,000 a month. You're running almost call it a $17,000 deficit every single month, and that continues to carry. So we have to make sure we're proactive, we're funding the organization to continue to push forward. There's specific, and I'm not gonna say the name, cannabis companies that just in PAC funding alone is $5 million in a quarter. PAC funding alone. That's not even counting what they're doing in lobbying, but that information isn't released to the public. The PAC funding information is, the lobbying information is not out there. So if they're spending $5 million in PAC funding, how much do you think they're spending on lobbying? And that's in one state. So the only way we can really fight these guys is by raising some money and going toe to toe. But at the end of the day, we're showing that deficit. It doesn't mean we don't have any wins. We definitely have some wins.
And could you highlight on some of those wins with like the funded donations, the initiatives with the funded initiatives?
Of course.
Could you highlight any of those?
Yeah. So if you look at recent wins and some of the associated budgets with those wins, we have Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Illinois. Georgia, you can see $500,000 is what we needed to make that successful. Tennessee, $400,000. Illinois, $300,000. North Carolina, $750,000. That's a lot of money. But we made things happen, right? Sometimes you're not going to get every single thing you want, but that's politics. You have to know going into a situation like that there's going to be some bargaining. But if you don't show up at the table, you're not going to be able to bargain for anything. You're going to lose it all. Because that company that's spending $5 million in PAC funding is going to eat your lunch, and you're not going to have a meal to go home with. One of the things that, I'm seeing in our industry right now that's a bit challenging is that we have some battles that we have won, 100%. But battles last a couple days. Wars last a decade. And they have a war chest. We need our own. If we're going to defeat these companies that want to ban hemp, we have to have a war chest that's going to have that type of impact on them. And we have been able to defeat them in states where we have run a deficit, and they've outspent us 10x. So as long as we can step it up and get some of these donations going, we'll be able to continue to fund and support all these states that do need our help. Because, guys, it's a domino effect. If one state goes, there's a higher risk for multiple states nearby to start going with it. We don't want that to happen. We have to make sure we're ahead of it. You cannot win a war by constantly putting out fires. You have to have the firefighters ready to knock that fire out well in advance.
Absolutely. So when I first met JD, one of the quotes he told me, I remember it today, was if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And that sort of goes off what you were saying. And just to dumb it down, let's say the association lost all donations today. No more money coming in. We had no money at all. What would happen to the industry?
I'm going to phone a friend. JD, we'll give you guys some good color on
Tap
that.
in right there. It's like Monday Night Raw.
Okay. So the question was, if all funds stopped today, what would happen? There would be a slow ripple effect over the first couple of months. People that work against us would slowly start to realize that we weren't arguing on the other side. They would start having meetings, and they would go uncontested. the senators and the representatives would not have our talking points to argue against them. They would just say, oh, well, that's terrible. You know, hemp products, oh my God, these are terrible things. And there would be no one there to argue the other side. After the first few months, probably 6 months in, they would just double, triple, quadruple down on their lobbying efforts and attempt to pass bills in every state where they recognized we were no longer there. Within 1 year's time, I would argue that the entire industry in the United States would be gone. If we didn't exist, and if folks like us didn't exist all over the country, if all of our money stopped today, within 1 year, the entire industry would be gone. The Farm Bill in 2025, gone. Everything would be gone. It's a big deal.
JD, real quick while you're up here, because we don't have JJ here, so I just want to ask you one question that I think is very important because there's a lot of propaganda out there on quality and regulation in hemp-derived products. And you'll see a lot from, you know, medical marijuana. You'll see intoxicating hemp and things like this, which is a complete lie. Could you talk about maybe the comparison of, I guess, you know, quality and testing and regulation from the hemp industry to medical marijuana?
So it's funny you should ask. I reached out to Bo Whitney. He's an economist. Bo Whitney did a report in Colorado back in 2023. And in that Colorado report, he asked every hemp manufacturer in the state of Colorado how many times their product was tested before it reached the end consumer. What he found was astonishing. Marijuana products, on average, are tested twice before they reach the end consumer. But because of the hemp supply chain, so the farmer tests their products, the manufacturer and extractor tests the products, the wholesaler and distributor tests the products, and then the retailer sometimes, again, tests the products. On average, our products are tested 3.7 times versus marijuana's twice. Because you have to show that value throughout the supply chain. The farmer has to show the high quality of their raw material, right? The extractor and distiller has to show the high quality of their product to the manufacturer and the wholesaler, et cetera, and on down the supply chain. And at the very end of that supply chain, the consumer has a QR code on every package that they themselves can check. And that's the market forces that control the rest of the supply chain. So, I mean, Lee Vantine, sitting right here, the CEO of CannaAid, he can tell you the number of times he's having to test all of his raw materials, all of his inputs, and all of the products he's manufacturing. And on average, it's probably 3 to 4 times before it ever makes it to a consumer. And that's incredible. So all of this nonsense and propaganda you hear from big marijuana and some of these large PR firms that are saying, oh, hemp is scary, hemp is scary. In reality, it's actually tested more than marijuana products. So pretty incredible.
No, thank you for that. I think that's important to expand on that. And you just brought up Lee, and I know you run a big brand as well, CannaAid. So as an operator, and I know there's probably some operators in the room as well, so you could dig into that insight. You guys probably have to test everything, and you could understand that. But Lee, could I just hear from you, I guess, you know, what made you get involved in the association?
Back when I was younger, you know, I had chronic migraines. I was a huge advocate for cannabis. I was always looking for, like, when is medical marijuana going to be available, like it is in California or Colorado. And long story short, started getting into the CBD industry in 2016. Things kept going one thing to another. JD in 2020 reached out to me. He told me all the success that he had with the vapor, the Saltnik, and everything that was going on, and how he got his veto within that. And he was like, there's multiple industries that are going to come after us. You know, you have insurance companies because of DUIs that they can't enforce, or big cannabis, alcohol, tobacco. All these companies are going to come after us because we're an unregulated industry. So it was really important for us to self-regulate and ask for regulation. So we formed the North Carolina chapter in 21, was that it? Yeah. In 21, we formed it, started lobbying, you know, we started meeting with local sheriffs, ALE, all different types of organizations within our state, and really just tried to make a difference and just having an open conversation about it. You know, we're so used to hiding. We're all so used to hiding because everything was like a water pipe, or, you know, not for tobacco use, or for tobacco use, not for anything else, you know. So it was really good to see, you know, just something different changing. And because we've been there for 2 or 3 years now, we're having great conversations and great progress in the state of North Carolina.
I love that. And I guess trying to relate to the audience, being an operator, if you guys have a business in hemp, if you guys have, you know, anything in hemp in general, what benefits has the association done for you after you became a member? Well, you're the president of the North Carolina, you know, so.
Well, a lot of this is like information, you know, because we have our weekly or monthly meetings where we talk about the proposed legislation, and the proposed legislation a lot of times ends up like actually passing. So like, for instance, in Florida, it was like a year ago, a lot of brands were taken down because of the packaging that they had. CannaAid had a very medicinal looking packaging, no cartoon characters, anything of that nature. So it's actually one of the ones that stayed on the shelves for a very long time. And we were able to make that audible before it actually went into effect because we were involved and whatnot.
Yeah, and like just like you said, you might have packaging that has, you know, cartoon characters or something on it, and then they'll come to your shop and they'll take it from you. And if you weren't involved in the association or just knowledgeable of the law and what's changing, you don't know what's going on and you're not ahead of the game. And then,
of course,
what are you going to do?
The lobbying efforts, I mean, it was a big price tag over there, but it's worth it. I mean, without that, Florida probably wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't have the veto. North Carolina, we might have lost our pilot program where CBD was actually going to be outlawed as well.
Correct.
Back in 2021 or 2022. So there's so many things that the industry is holding on. We're barely holding on, but because of this association, we still have a grasp. You know, we're still kind of there.
No, absolutely, for sure. And expanding on that, going from, you know, packaging changes, there's law enforcement, there's, you know, legislative changes. And I think, Ro, if I could hear from you, as an expert at law, let's say, you know, law enforcement shows up at your door. I think that's something that a lot of people are kind of, you know, nervous about being in the industry. And especially if you don't have a lot of information. As an expert at law, what can a business owner do if law enforcement shows up at your door?
Let me give you a little bit about my background because I am qualified to speak on this. So I started my career just a couple blocks away at the Broward County Courthouse as a criminal prosecutor many years ago. And I also worked for the state of Florida and various agencies working as a prosecutor, taking away folks' licenses. So I feel very uniquely qualified to speak about this. So if an investigator shows up at your door, one of the first things that I would recommend to any of you is to call your attorney. And when you call an attorney, there are two types of attorneys that you should have in your cell phone. First of all, you should be taking a picture of this, by the way, for your phone. And that is, you should have a criminal attorney, a criminal defense attorney, and you should have an administrative law attorney, because there are two types of investigators that could potentially show up at your business. One is a police officer, a law enforcement officer, whether that's the FBI, whether that's your local sheriff. Those are people, I joke that they come with silver bracelets, right? They actually can handcuff you. Those folks can show up. For those folks, you're going to want a criminal defense attorney. If someone shows up from, for example, here in Florida, the Florida Department of Agriculture, one of those investigators, you will want to contact your administrative law attorney. This is an attorney that specializes in this particular brand of law and understands it. It has a lot of nuances. It's actually run a lot like civil law, so it's a little different than criminal law. So you want to have these two types of attorneys. When somebody comes to your door, you want to be absolutely kind and respectful. I know that they're coming there. You probably perceive this as busting your chops. It probably is. You were probably accurate in this. But you must remember that you might be recorded at the time. And anything you say to them can and will be used as evidence against you. As a prosecutor, I used to love this. When people get, quote unquote, busted, they say all kinds of things, and all of that ends up in the report. And as a prosecutor, I used to eat it up. Please let there be a video. I would love to publish that to the jury, because the way you appear that day in court in your suit, all proper, may not match the way you greeted these folks at your door. And a jury will see that, or a judge, administrative law judge, and your credibility will be shot. So, respectful, call an attorney. You need to take down the agent's name. You need to take down their contact information. You need to understand where they're coming from. Don't just, there's at one point at the end, it's call us. But you need to be able to tell us it was a federal law enforcement agent, it was my local sheriff, it was somebody from the Florida Department of Agriculture. You need to be able to tell us who it was, their name, and where they're from. You need to, if there is a search warrant, ask if you can take a photograph of it. You'll need to send that to your attorney. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I apologize. There's no need, if they don't have a search warrant, there's no need to consent to a search, but you want to make sure that you understand what authority they have, and they'll have to be able to tell you. So ask them, under what authority are you here? They'll need to give you either a federal statute, a state statute. They need to be able to identify under what authority that they are there. Write all of this down when it's happening. I know it's very scary and confusing, but that is something you need to keep your head about this. And you need to train your employees with regards to this. You can document, and you should, everything that they're doing. And if you do turn on the video of your phone, you need to let the agents know that you are recording them. So you can say, I am now recording you, and let them go about their business. Stay out of their way, but you can stand back and record them. You need to let them know that you are doing that. If they give you a hard time about that, all of that goes into your notes. Just open the note app in your phone and just in real time start taking notes of everything they're looking at, things they are saying. That's the type of report you're going to want to give to your attorney. Your attorney's going to ask you all of these questions. And then lastly, once they leave, feel free to call us. You can actually call us while this is happening, but I recommend you do all of these things while they're there at your warehouse, at your retail store, wherever it is that your place of business. And if you have any questions, feel free to catch me in the hallway.
Yeah, absolutely. Right after this segment, it'll be shortly. We're going to answer any questions you guys have or anything like that. And it's great insight, Ro, what you just said there, because after we joined the association, that's the information and the education that we didn't have. Sometimes you think you're an expert at law until you meet an expert at law, you know. I'm not an expert at all, you know, and things like that you're supposed to know. I remember the first time I met you was in Tallahassee in court, and she was just getting me right, like, you know, like my mother, making sure, you know, I didn't smell like weed in court, you know, making sure I, you know, was saying things right, addressing people as they're supposed to be addressed, things like that. So I could tell you there's a lot of education from, you know, being a part of the association, and that goes further than you think. And leading into that, if you guys want to join, there's a step-by-step detailed process on how to do that. And I'd like to hear from you now, Shai, on, you know, what are the detailed steps into becoming a member or a supporter with the association?
Yes, guys. So becoming a member with American Healthy or Florida Healthy or the chapters in your state it's extremely easy. You're just going to go to the website. You will select the membership that meets your needs, and you will add it to your cart and check out on a monthly subscription. This membership is going to entitle you to all different kinds of things. Everything from a public chat that kind of has our whole community in it, down to your private chat, where you are in a community with others who are trying to fight for hemp with you. A community where you have attorneys, where you have people who are in this business and are ready to provide for you. However, as you heard with Yasser, that comes at an extraordinary cost. Many of the people that serve, even on our boards, they do this pro bono because they care about this industry tremendously. So the funds that are raised go to fighting for your businesses. And I can tell you right now that, when you guys leave this room, I hope that you tell others to look into those memberships and what they entail and how they could potentially help your business and how you could be working alongside of us to do things on a legislative and on a state side to make impact. So if, go to today when you're at home, go to myhealthyusa.org or go to floridahealthy.org and go ahead and sign up for a monthly membership. If you have any questions, there's chats there that you can reach out to. We are very active on our email. We are available. There's an 805 number that you can reach out to ask additional questions to. We are here for you guys. So it really just boils down to you making that extra effort and getting onto the team with us and saving hemp.
Absolutely. And I guess what would be like is there like a minimum contribution that you can make a month, or would you know what that is?
So we have all different kinds of donations, everything from a one-time donation, you know, guys, I know times can be tough sometimes, all the way down to a monthly subscription. And that monthly subscription entitles you to different features, services, a lot of the things that you hear today to include that support. That phone call for the FDAX officer, you know, that is in your store and you feel scared, that phone call goes to us, and we're there to help you navigate that fear, help you navigate what is going on, and make sure that you aren't a victim of the system that we're currently in. There's a lot of hoodwinking going on in our system, and it is necessary to have a voice that continues to remain true. AHAA, American Healthy Alternative Association, Florida Healthy Alternative Association is that voice, but we do need your dollars to fight and to be present, because they are fighting us equally. I speak at a lot of different things here in Florida, and I constantly see the opposition, and they are vicious. But I will tell you this, they're small. There is not a lot of them. They just have a ton of money. We are huge. We are one of the largest cannabis markets in the entire US. We are leading the free market. We are bringing in true social equity into this market like never seen before in the last 100 years. But I will tell you what, if we do not band together, if we do not have more memberships, if you guys don't leave this room talking about what you learned today to others and voicing it, then we may not be here in a year. And if we are not here in a year, you guys will all fall and become true victims of this monopolistic privileged society. So I hope that today you guys take a look into it. Any questions, I'm here for you guys. Everybody on this staff makes themselves, or everybody on this board makes themselves available. I feel so lucky as a member myself to be a part of this. I have a small cannabis dispensary in Florida with Brandon. We're the #1 dispensary in Tampa. We beat medical marijuana companies. You know why that is? We're awarded for it because we care so much. And that is the difference in this industry versus that industry. This industry is here for the people. True hemp. Washington wrote the Declaration of Independence on hemp. Jesus burned candles with hemp. It was not medical marijuana. So when you guys leave this room today, I hope that you know that this is not just a war for yourselves, a war for us. This is a long-term war, but this is a spiritual war. And to me, it's power to the people. So please make sure you spread the word, okay? And we are here for you.
Absolutely, yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You answered the questions before I even asked them. I was like, let's go. You got it going. Hell yeah. I love it.
I want to see you guys win. I want to see you guys fight. I want to see us bring true social equity back to the market. I'm a Hispanic Puerto Rican woman. 100 years ago, no one would ever have given me this option. 50 years ago, no one would have ever given me this option to enter the market. 10 years ago, this option was not available, but this option is available today, and it is for us to stand up and take it back. So I hope that you guys all do that. I hope you feel this passion. And I hope when you go live your businesses, you feel equally as passionate about the people that you're helping. And join this membership. Join to be a part of this, because we feel your passion 110%. We stay up late. We drive to Tallahassee for it. We bother representatives, senators. We show up to things that we don't even like. We're part of our chambers, and we sponsor every legislative chambers meeting. So when those legislative representatives are standing up on stage, they have to stand behind a hemp logo.
Amen. Let's go.
Get involved, guys. Get involved.
And if you guys have had any questions from the first speaker all the way to the last, if you guys had any questions, please raise your hand. We'd like to answer them, and you could address who you'd like to address. But if there is any questions, if you could raise your hand, and we'll answer those now. Yes. Yes.
Hi, I'm bad with
There's a mic right there by you.
So good.
Thank you. I'm horrible with names, so please excuse me. That was passionate. I really felt that, and I'm definitely going to go home and tell the team that we're joining, and we're definitely going to sign for a membership for sure. Because I remember in September, we're just like sitting on our hands, like, oh my God, what's going to happen with the farm bill? What's going to happen? Are we going to be out of business? So we're really going to join this. I appreciate it. And we sell direct to consumer online. Okay. And I have a question for you about law. Like I don't know
for
who to
Ro?
Look for. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
It's okay.
What was your name?
My name is Dee.
Dee, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Dee.
legend handpicked we have. And we're like really confused when it comes to law because we ship to the compliant states that we can do, that we can ship to. But as far as finding a lawyer, we've been talking to so many people. They're not really up to date on all the laws of all the states. And like, we're just trying to find the right one.
So that's something that we can help you with because we are in so many states and we have hired so many lawyers ourselves. And because we have lobbyists in lots and lots of states, and lobbyists and lawyers kind of like go together, like, right? Like hamburgers and French fries. So we would be able to give you a list of names of folks that are in this space, familiar with this space, or if they're not, quick learners, they understand, they have good relationships, a skill set that you need for whatever it is that you need with regards to your business. And some of those questions, I'm always happy to take those calls of members, right? To take those calls and sit with you for a few minutes to figure out what it is you're asking, and I can help you phrase it in a way and also give you a little bit of background, like what you should be looking for when you are hiring attorneys or lobbyists. Ideally, you're hiring attorneys, and what to go over when you get an invoice from them, those types of things. And I'm happy to talk to you about those.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you, Dee.
Thank
I'll
you.
give you my card after I have it.
Any other questions in the crowd? No more. Right there. What's going on, my man? What's your name?
Hey, David.
David, nice to meet you. What's your
David,
question?
who are you with?
Well, I just came here myself. I have a local food truck, and we're starting to do infused products. And this is something that I was thinking it's definitely going to impact us if hemp becomes, I don't know if it's going to be decriminalized or made illegal or what. But obviously that's going to have huge implications. I was speaking to JD and Ro yesterday, and they, gave me a little bit of briefing about everything you guys do, and I wanted to know, how one can become more involved. Obviously, being a part of the membership is one huge way. Are there other associations or other lobbyists that are also working in partnership with you guys, or are you guys like the only, front right now really going against this battle?
I can take that one.
Yeah, JD.
So there are state associations, hemp state associations, kind of all over the country, but depending on which state you're talking about or you're inquiring about, let's say Idaho, there might not be an association on the ground that's official, but there is likely a group of businesses that we're familiar with that we can put you in contact with to all group together. We actively advocate that people in their own states form their own state associations, which is why we have so many state chapters, because people come to us and they say, hey, what do we do? There's a bad piece of legislation. How do we fix this? And we've got bylaws. We've got kind of the turnkey operation. Go and start a nonprofit. Go and put your bylaws in place. Get a board set up. Get your people together. Keep your minutes. Go and find a lobbyist, an attorney. And we can help them form a state association so that they can defend themselves. I started the Florida Healthy Alternatives Association back in 2021. And then a friend of mine in Tennessee called me, a guy named Sam. He owns a few stores in Nashville. And the legislature was getting ready to ban all of these hemp products in 2021. And he said, what do I do? And I said, oh my God, I just went through this in Florida. I just set this up. I'll help you. And so I helped him there. And then the state of Georgia called. And then North Carolina called. Lee, actually, and Greg, they called me. And then Maryland called. And it expanded naturally because we were there to help them in the time of need in those states. Now, at the national level, there are really kind of three major players. But it's kind of us, the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, and then a few kind of cannabis associations at all in D.C. So there's a lot of different organizations. We advocate that you just engage, right? Pay attention, because if you don't know what's going on, it could have been made illegal 3 months ago, and you have no idea, and the police show up at your door and put you in handcuffs. So it's best to be informed.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if anybody else had any questions, or if I can.
You got another one?
Yeah.
Shoot away, my man.
Following up, we also discussed a little bit in reference to Florida. They're going to be, we're polling right now the Initiative 3, which is going to be legalizing recreational marijuana. The impacts of that on hemp, I'm trying to figure out, is that something that's going to completely wipe out hemp here, or if it does pass, are there ways that associations like American Healthy can actually make sure that maybe they can work together? If recreational passes, can hemp still work side by side, or are we facing that pure evil, greed, corruption that we were
That's
talking about?
a great question.
Yeah.
JD, yeah.
It's very rare that anything in politics exists in a binary, okay? We have a decision coming up on November 5th as to whether or not we legalize marijuana in the state of Florida. But that's actually kind of a trick question, kind of a trick ballot initiative. It's not actually legalizing marijuana. It is legalizing the sale of marijuana through a few large corporations. And if you go and read the actual ballot amendment, the constitutional amendment, the language in there says that medical marijuana treatment centers can start selling recreational marijuana 6 months after the passage of the initiative. Now, if it passes, what does that look like for us? If you go and look into, it's all public record, but you can go and look at the number of lobbyists that are in Tallahassee representing all of these marijuana corporations. I counted them. What I remember was there was 45 medical marijuana lobbyists in the state of Florida this year, right? If it passes, first of all, their stock prices are going to skyrocket. When those stock prices skyrocket, they're going to have a lot more liquid capital. And they're going to deploy that liquid capital to make sure the implementation bill, which is the regulations that will set up the sale of recreational marijuana, will actually advantage them more than anyone else. And if you need proof of that, I would argue, go back and look at the implementation of medical marijuana. There were all kinds of little tricks they put in the language. You had to have a nursery that had been in constant operation for 30 years. And go figure whose family had one of those 30-year nurseries, right? So there are all these high barriers to entry that they put in the way of small businesses. In the state of Florida, we are the 15th largest economy in the world. We are the 3rd largest state in the country, and there's only 22 marijuana licenses. That's 1 license per million people in the state. That is outrageous. There are over 10,000 of us, over 10,000 hemp businesses registered in the state of Florida, and yet there are only 22 medical marijuana licenses. That is outrageous. We're coming out of a 100-year prohibition. This product has been used to imprison people for 100 years in the United States.
Yes.
We have to come out of that and represent everyone in our community. Thank you.
Amen.
Great answer. Great answer. Absolutely. And thanks for asking the question, David. Any other questions in the crowd? So I actually got a question. I just, again, want to dumb it all the way down. I know there's an operator out there somewhere watching live or watching somewhere that just doesn't understand what's going on. It doesn't understand some of these terms. If you're anything like me, before I got into the association, I wasn't really too sure what lobbying was, to be honest. I was like, well, what is lobbying? Well, I'm not going to spend my money on something I don't know what it is. If I could have you guys just, maybe briefly just talk on what is lobbying.
Well, first of all, I'm going to have you all participate in lobbying. And if you have anyone that is downstairs and not up here listening to us, you should text them now and tell them to come up here. We've got about another hour of this. So that's your first lobbying assignment. So you can be part of the group. Okay, let's talk about lobbying and what that is. At its basic form, it just looks like some chit chat, right? Like, I'm going to go have a meeting. I'm a lobbyist, by the way. If I know I talked about my credentials as sort of law enforcement and prosecutor. Now we'll talk about my other credentials, right? So I do lobby. I am one of your lobbyists for the state of Florida with regards to the hemp industry. I have also for nearly a decade represented vape and gone up against big tobacco over and over and over again. So that's my credentials there. With regards to lobbying, people think it's just me taking JD in to go see a senator or even one of you to go see a senator or to see a governor or to meet with those people. And that I just happened to bring him, I ran into them at the coffee shop and now I'm bringing them. those folks are not as accessible as you may think. And to get them to focus and listen to what you have to say, you have to create credibility with them. You have to have a relationship with them. Those go hand in hand. As a lobbyist, I come to you already with credibility and relationships. I have political capital in my bank account. So when I bring somebody to fill in the blank, senator, whoever, a really influential staffer, if I bring you to the governor's office, they know who I am. They've seen me before. They know I am transparent truth teller, or as some of you describe me as sort of the stern mom. I don't think they use the word stern, but I know what they were getting at. And that's okay. I'm okay in that role because I will fight for you people like unbelievable, okay? I know I come across, maybe I'm fierce. Little, but fierce. So before I bring you there, I am going to talk to you about this person. And it takes me years with that political capital to get it in my bank account. And now I'm going to spend some of it by bringing the hemp industry to see this individual. And some of my capital will now be placed into your quote unquote bank account. And you will then begin creating your political capital with these folks. But that's how it works. And it takes years to create that. And that's why you hire a lobbyist. You also hire them. I see we're getting the hook here. You also hire them because they're going to give you specialized knowledge before you go into this meeting. I'm going to tell you what that senator likes, what they don't like, how they previously voted, who they're friends with, who we saw them talk to at a coffee shop 3 days ago. We're going to have all of that intel. And I'm also going to help you in what you're going to say to them, how you're going to say it, how you're going to deliver, so that you have the right message at the right time, and I've opened the right door for you. That's what you pay me and the other lobbying team for. And it's incredibly specialized what we do. But we're happy to do it for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's going to wrap up the questions from anybody. Thank you so much, Ro, for that.